Coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, we're actually in the garden today and we're getting things prepped so that when it's time to plant, we're ready to go.
And then later we're going to go into Holly's kitchen where she's going to make us a wonderful dessert using some of those homemade canned peaches that we had from last year. All that today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
You like that peach dessert?
Yeah, it's good. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored in part by, for all your non-GMO, organic, and heirloom vegetable, flowers, and herb seeds, visit dollarseed.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil, retains moisture and adds nutrients, which equals less watering. Available in labor-saver, pre-filled trays and pots, bag and bulk. Visit SiouxCompost.com. Organic fertilizer for the health-conscious organic home gardener. Family owned and operated. Visit thewiveggardeners.com. Don't poison your soil with municipal water. Attach a body, mind, and soil hose filter. Free shipping exclusively through the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Just click on the body, mind, and soil icon. Authentic Haven brand soil conditioner for the home gardener. Easy to brew. Visit ManureTea.com. No measuring, no thinking. Stamp it, plant it, stop plotting, start planting. GardenStamp.com. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. As Old Man Winter releases its grasp on us here in southeast Wisconsin, it's an urgency to get back in the garden. Here in southeast Wisconsin and as many portions of the northern portions of North America, we have a limited amount of time to get in the garden and actually grow vegetables. As the saying quotes, you make hay while the sun shines, and that holds very prevalent to us here. We can't grow year-round outside, so we need to get in the garden as soon as possible, whether you've prepped the garden now or you've done it last fall. I'm Joy Baird.
And I'm Holly Baird.
And this is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. It's time to get in the garden and get things established or at least organized so when it's time to plant, you're not waiting to till the soil, you're ready to plant what you're ready to plant.
And we actually have some cleanup we have to do. Last fall it got really cold really quickly and then we got snow, so we didn't get a lot of stuff cleaned up, and that involves a couple different things.
Right, half the high end of the garden is done, it's ready to go. We're just waiting on 4 yards of certified leaf compost from Sioux's to be delivered to top dress our raised berms. But the back side of the garden needs a little assistance because we kind of got away from us. As you said, it got cold and we had to pull our ranks and get out.
Right, so one thing we had to do is, if you take a look here, we have to deal with the stalks or the stems from our Jerusalem artichokes, and we're not going to be able to pull them out of the ground at this point yet, but we can trim them down so that we can obviously see our area better. And so we're going to trim them down, and then we'll have a better idea what we have going on here.
So let's get going and get some of this stuff done.
Okay, so we're going to trim off the top part of the stalks, like I said before, just because we want to get them trimmed off so we can see our whole area better. And then once the ground thaws, we're going to pull them out. Now, sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes are kind of an invasive plant, so we might not get all of them out of the ground, but at least we'll get most of them out. So I'm just going to get to trimming them here. And we're just going to trim them so that they're about a foot here left so that we can pull them out when the ground is ready. Okay, so we got that last one done. Now we're just going to go over by Joey and we're going to take a look at the compost we started last fall.
All right, so we had created a 1 cubic yard area of leaf compost last fall, if you remember, on a straight to the point. It was completely full. We actually threw in some pumpkins that was used after Halloween, as well as a lot of the pear cores and pear remains that we used when we juiced our pear juice from the tree out front of the house in the small garden. And as you can see, it's literally went down 50% of what it was. Now, we didn't get in here and turn this over or aerate it at all because it's kind of hard to do when it's actually negative 25 degrees ambient temperature with a wind chill of negative 50. And you can see that there is the center of this has froze, and there's some ice crystals formed here. So as the days get warmer here, this will begin to, the water and the ice will begin to thaw. And what the intentions of this pile was to do was to pick up all the leaves that was in the yard, get rid of our pear cores, as well as this right here, this raised berm that we're next to is where one of several tomato patches will be this year. So that'll only intensify the nutrients in the soil. We'll also take this out of the area and we will create another area for this compost so we can get this bed worked and established and our Epsom salt down so we can prep it for tomatoes this Memorial Day or this May, this spring, when the temperature becomes adequate. All right, so I've dug down in the center. Obviously the outside portion of it is frozen because of the moisture. The inside, you can kind of see it's moist. There's, I don't know what that is. That doesn't belong there. Let's see what else I can grab down in there. It's starting to break down, but obviously now there's some pears. We didn't have a perfect 50-50 ratio of browns versus greens because we had mostly just browns, which is leaves, and we had some of those pear cores and some pumpkins. So obviously it wasn't going to break down as quickly as it would if everything was perfect, but it is a compost pile and it does break down. And it will break down, then we'll maneuver these leaves into another pile as well as maybe top dress some of the areas of the garden that needs a little more additional help in addition with the compost that we've got coming in. You can compost in the winter. It can be done. It doesn't break down nearly as quickly as it would in the summer, but it is something that's very beneficial. It gave us something to get the leaves into, and it did break down about 50%, so we're very beneficial, or it's very beneficial and we're very happy with it. And earth compost or earth-based material compost is some of the best that you can potentially, it is the best you can potentially put in your garden. So I'm excited to move this to another location, and again we'll bring in some of Sue's certified leaf compost and top dress these raised berms, and we'll be really happy and have a very good garden this year, better than we've ever had before. So we'll just let this thaw out a little bit. I'm just going to move some of this around just to get some air in there, and we'll be ready to go. And Holly's going to take a look at some of the tomato cages and the tomato patch that we left abandoned because of the cold weather coming on so suddenly last fall.
Okay, so as Joey had mentioned, we are getting the tomato cages pulled out because we were unable to do that in the fall. So I've just been pulling them out and I've been stacking them and getting them organized so that when it's time to plant the tomatoes later on this spring, we're able to have it all in one location and we're ready to go. Now this area is going to also be converted into raised berms, as Joey had mentioned, and we're going to do some different reformatting of the garden. So we're going to go with Joey to the back of the garden and he's going to talk about the raised berms.
So we're on the back side of the large garden here, and we're going to reformat this into raised berms, and they're going to be 4 foot wide by 10 foot long, and we'll be able to get about a dozen, 16 beds back here. Now this whole raised berm concept came from our good friend Joe Lample, host of Growing a Greener World on PBS, episode 410, that'll be in the show notes. He went up to New York to a gardener who's actually performing this, and it's called a weedless garden. Each year he brings more compost in, puts on top of the beds, and it really is a weedless, W-E-E-D-L-E-S-S type of garden. We've talked about it, we've looked at it, we've researched it, and we feel that this is an absolute necessity for the way we garden here at the large garden. So we're very excited to perform that. And the nice thing about these raised berms is it's very manageable. 4 by 10, you know you can weed that very easily. It's not the overwhelming of I've got to weed this whole garden. And we can rotate our crops, and we've been planning on what crops to plant where all winter long. So getting in the garden, we got to get things ready to go very quickly because when the weather turns, we want to be ready to plant instead of prep.
So we are going to make a delicious peach pie from canned peaches. Now if you don't have canned peaches, you can certainly use fresh peaches, but we canned the peaches this past summer, so we're going to make a pie with it, and it's going to have like a crumbly topping. So the first thing I did is I prepared my pie crust, and I put it in my pie pan, and I kind of folded the edges over to give it a nice crust. Then I drained my peaches. I used a quart and a pint, and I'm just going to drain them, and you want to save that juice. It's really good, so you can drink the juice. Then what we're going to do is we took half a cup of flour and then a quarter cup of brown sugar. Brown sugar gives it a nice depth of flavor, so we're just going to mix those up here. Just loose is fine, because once we get the peaches in there, they'll mix up nicely. But you just want to kind of smush the brown sugar and the flour together. All right, then we're going to dump the peaches in there and mix them in. This way the peaches will have a nice thickener. Okay, so we've got everything well combined. As you can see, they're kind of binded together now. So we're just going to pour them into this pie plate. Oh. Well, there's a little bit of flour there that I missed. That's okay. All right, so now we're just going to smooth it out. And you want to preheat your oven to 375. All right, so that fills it up nicely. Since we're putting a crumble on top, we don't want to fill it to the top. I guess if you don't want to do a crumble, if you want to do like a double crust, then you would want to do like 2 quarts instead. Or if you're doing like canned peaches you buy from the store, then you would want to do 2 of the larger cans. Okay, so that's done. Now we're making our crumbly toppings. So we're just going to push this aside here. And in here I have some oats, I have some flour, I have some brown sugar, and a little bit of cinnamon. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stir it up with my fork here, so that all these ingredients are well combined. Then we're going to add some melted butter. Okay, so now this is all well combined. So we're going to take 1 stick of butter, which is also 1/2 cup of butter that I've melted, and I'm just going to put this in here and mix it up. And then it's going to get real crumbly. Just like that. Okay, so now I have this and it's ready to go. And you can just dump it on there, which is what I like to do, or you can crumble it with your hands. It's up to you. But that's really your choice. So then you just spread it around the top. And as you can see, it's going to basically fill up the rest here. So what you're going to do is, after you get this spread around, you're going to put it in your oven at 375 degrees, preheated, for about 45 minutes to an hour. You just want to watch to make sure that the crust doesn't burn. If it's like a half an hour in or something, your crust is looking like it might burn, then you want to put tin foil around the edges if you need to. Otherwise, you'll be good to go. So I'm going to just get this in the oven, and I'm going to put it in for about 45 minutes. I'm going to check it and see where we're at. Okay, so the pie is done now. It has a nice golden brown crust on it, so that's how we know it's done. And we're going to wait about 10 minutes to just let it kind of cool down and settle a bit and solidify. And then we're going to go ahead and cut into it. And it's delicious, served with ice cream or homemade whipping cream, something like that. Thank you for watching. I'm Holly Baird. Join us next time for more organic gardening and home food preservation. This has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.